Well, good morning, everyone. This is another unusual Sunday morning for all of us. It's certainly not what I was anticipating this week, but be that as it may, we can't control the weather, and so here we are, coming to you from my basement, out in the middle of the country where the roads are terrible. The wind is blowing, and we have a wind chill right now of 37 below zero. So it's everything is frozen over. I had someone ask me the other day, what does that mean for us with everything being frozen over? And I said, well, here's what I think it means in 2022. I think it means the Cubs are going to win the World Series, and I think it's going to mean the Bears are going to win the Super Bowl. So I'll let you figure out what's frozen over at this point. But anyway, we're going to spend some time together this morning in worship. I've got some notes that I've prepared, and we will be doing some sharing and praying. So before we begin, let's open with a word of prayer. Gracious God, the sun is shining, the skies are clear, the wind is blowing, and we know you are near. We thank you for the chance to gather by this means, gather near and far, gather with each other to share your word and to share your thoughts and prayers. Hallelujah. Amen. This morning I want to preach to you from 1 Samuel. I'm on this journey to preach at least once from every chapter of the Bible, or every book of the Bible. And I went through my notes, and I have not preached from 1 Samuel, so I thought, what a better Sunday to preach from 1 Samuel than this morning. So what I want to ask you to do this morning is, I ask you a big question. Do you know what the voice of God sounds like? Have you heard God talking to you? I think listening for God's voice is very difficult when everything is very, very noisy. Now, if you're brave and you're dressed up, if you go outside today, there is total silence out there. The birds are not singing. The wind, other than the rustling through the trees, is the only sound you're going to hear, at least out here where I live. So, listening for God's voice is always a challenge. And one of the things I found out in 1 Samuel, as I went through this again, was the king named Eli was really a good priest, but not so much a good parent. Didn't do a real good job with raising his kids, unlike almost all of us, I'm sure. But he talked a lot about Samuel, and Samuel got involved in this. And here I want to read from the 3rd chapter of the 1st Samuel, and it's Samuel's first prophecy, and listen for the word of the Lord. Now the boy Samuel ministered to the Lord before Eli, and the word of the Lord was rare in those days. There was no widespread revelation. And it came to pass at the time that Eli was lying down in his place, and when his eyes had begun to grow so dim that he could not see, and before the lamp of God went out in the tabernacle of the Lord where the ark of God was, and while Samuel was lying down, that the Lord called Samuel, and he answered, Here I am. And so he ran to Eli and said, Here I am for you called me. And he said, I did not call you. Lie down again. And he went and he lay down. That seemed like one page, and it actually wasn't. So Samuel thinks he hears Eli calling for him. So he gets up, middle of the night, goes in and says, Here I am. What do you need? Well, Eli sends him back. Said, I didn't call you. Well, picture that. Then the Lord called yet again, Samuel. So Samuel arose and went to Eli and said, Here I am, for you called me. He answered, I did not call you, my son. Lie down again. Now Samuel did not know the Lord, nor was the word of the Lord yet revealed to him. And the Lord called Samuel again the 3rd time. So he rose and went to Eli and said, Here I am, for you did call me. Then Eli perceived that the Lord had called the boy. Therefore Eli said to Samuel, Go lie down, and it shall be, if he calls you, that you must say, Speak, Lord, for your servant hears. So Samuel went and lay down in his place. Now the Lord came and stood and called as at other times, Samuel, Samuel. And Samuel answered, Speak, for your servant hears. Have you ever felt like you've been a conduit between God and a message that you're to give to someone else? I think that's a very interesting proposition as we look at the fact that sometimes God uses people to give his messages. He passes those through us. We become a channel. We become an extension cord of God to whomever he is trying to reach. That can be a very difficult thing to perceive. We just think that, where did we get that? How did we figure that thing out? So when we have those feelings, when we have those thoughts, are they ours? Or did God plant them there and we just picked up on it? So how do you discern those things? I would love to tell you it's perfectly clear, very easy to understand, and guess what? It isn't. It is not. So poor Samuel is trying to get to sleep. Imagine this conversation that's going back and forth, him running up to Eli going, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, and being told, I didn't call you. Okay, so now you're hearing voices. But whose voice are you hearing? We tend not to hear God's voice in the day and age in which we live. And here's some reasons why. We have our cars that we have noise in. We have radios, we have TVs, we have stereos, we have people around us, we have neighbors, we have loud cars, we have motorcycles, we have traffic, we have sirens, we have all kinds of things that prevent us from hearing God. So when do we hear God? I think it's that still small voice that is going to get drowned out by anything that's big. Now I will tell you this morning, one of the problems we're having here is there's so many people out there online that everything is slow. So if I'm coming through you like, good morning, it's because the internet is running slow. I'm not running slow. I'm running at my usual crazy speed. And I think one of the things that I would invite y'all to do is, do you have something to drink? Do you have some coffee? Do you have hot chocolate? Do you have something to keep you going while we're going through this together? It's a very unusual time that we're dealing with. January is winter. I don't know how many of you remembered that, because December is winter, and December was in the 60s. So what in the world is going on? Well, I suspect that by the end of the year, everything will have balanced out and will be within a degree or two of what is normal. This is not normal. These temperatures are not normal. Being outside is not normal. The things that we are experiencing is not normal. So as we look at our lives right now, you can honestly look at people around you and go, they're not normal. And we're not. We're not. And that's okay. I don't think God ever expected us to be normal. And then the other thing is, what is normal? What is normal? So one of the things I focused on this week as I was preparing this message is about the importance of silence. Silence. The Simon and Garfunkel song, Hello Darkness, My Old Friend. The sound of silence. What is that sound? What is the sound of silence? So I started thinking about what kind of stories can I share? This is an unusual Sunday. We can't sing our hymns, although I had a wonderful ukulele player do the prelude this morning, and I think she did a great job. I happen to know that ukulele player, by the way. So as I looked through my bookcases, I found some really interesting things I'd like to share with you today that really tie into what we're talking about, and that is, be still and know that I am God. So some of the books I grabbed, the first one, and I think this is going to show up backwards. Yeah, it probably does. It says, When I Relax, I Feel Guilty. This is by Tim Hansel, who has written a lot of, I would say, lighthearted spiritual books. And I selected some passages. But the very first page is a poem by Orrin Crane. And the title of the poem is Slow Me Down, Lord. Have you ever prayed to be slowed down? A lot of people pray. A lot of people pray to be sped up. And I know there's times I wish, I wish I could walk a little faster. Because if I slow down much more with walking, I'm going to just basically stop. But anyway, this is Slow Me Down, Lord. And it goes like this. Slow me down, Lord. Ease the pounding of my heart by the quieting of my mind. Steady my hurried pace with a vision of the eternal reach of time. Give me amid the confusion of the day the calmness of the everlasting hills. Break the tensions of my nerves and muscles with the soothing music of the singing streams that live in my memory. I love that passage there. Teach me the art of taking minute vacations, of slowing down to look at a flower, to chat with a friend, to pat a dog, to smile at a child, to read a few lines from a good book. Slow me down, Lord, and inspire me to send my roots deep into the soil of life's enduring values, that I may grow toward my greater destiny. Remind me each day that the race is not always to the swift, that there is more to life than increasing its speed. Let me look upon the towering oak to know that it grew great and strong because it grew slowly and well. And then this little bit of poetry here. She was very pretty, very clever, and very adept in the social arena. And she had about as much depth of character as a pie pan. I just thought that was kind of humorous. But this paragraph by Gordon Dahl really kind of struck me. It says, most middle-class Americans tend to worship their work, to work at their play, and to play at their worship. As a result, their meanings and values are distorted. Their relationships disintegrate faster than they can keep them in repair, and their lifestyles resemble a cast of characters in search of a plot. In search of a plot. You ever find that in your life? You ever think you need to find some characters? One of the other books I selected this morning to share a passage, and I'm not even going to read from the book, I'm going to read from The Flyleaf, that was written by a lady that I worked with. Or I should say we at least worked in the same building. And this book is called The Rest of God, Restoring Your Soul by Restoring Sabbath. And she wrote this note to me. And I want you to keep in mind, this lady and I had met for less than 2 minutes. And I can't be sure that I've seen her since. And she gave me this book in 2008 while we were standing side by side at the salad bar at State Farm. And she says, Mike, I know you don't know me personally, nor I you. How do you feel when you get something like that? This lady clearly was being used as a conduit to talk to me that day. To talk to me. Because she took one look at me and was just like, I feel sorry for this guy. And here's why. I was exhausted when I saw her. We had been busy. We had been super busy. And I looked at her book. She was reading this book, The Rest of God, Restoring Your Soul by Restoring Sabbath. And I just happened to look down at her book on her tray, and I said, boy, I could use that kind of rest. That's all we said. That's all we said. She said, well, God bless you. And she went on. I went on. That's a God moment. That's a God moment. I don't know you. And you don't know me. Just a chance conversation at the State Farm Cafe Grill, which I don't think is by chance at all. I don't think that was by chance at all. However, when you took an interest in my book and said it looked like something you needed, I felt compelled to get you a copy. So please accept my humble gift, which, by the way, was anything but a humble gift. It was a wonderful gift. May your reading bring you into a place of rest in God, peace, and trust. The book has been an eye-opener for me in that my own sense of busyness was leaving me, sorely lacking. She closes with, enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. God bless Joan. I have no idea who Joan was to this day. That was 2008. This book has been a companion when I have been just exhausted. Just totally exhausted. And trust me when I tell you this, pastors get exhausted. They get exhausted. I can tell you 2 days of the year when pastors just go. One is December 26th, the day after Christmas. All the hubbub, all the services, all the dinner, all the cooking, everything is over. The wrapping paper is in a big garbage bag, and you're sitting there in your sweatshirt jammies, and you're just like, I'm out of gas. The other one is the day after Easter. Lent is finished. It's gone. Easter sunrise, Easter brunch, Easter service, all of the people coming in, people that we only see at Christmas and Easter, all of them are coming in. And on that particular day, I don't know about other pastors, but I just sit back and go, I try to catch my breath. I can't hear God in those kinds of times. I don't know anybody that could. So, how do you listen for God? How do you make that happen in your life? Who makes that happen for you? Who creates your quiet space? Who gives you a lovely place to just sit? Just sit and take a deep breath. Yesterday at the Ponderosa Ranch here out in the tundra, I had to go down and feed the sheep. Okay? Yes, and one of my many jobs is I'm a shepherd also. I'm a shepherd of people and I'm a shepherd of sheep. Boy, that was hard to say. So I dressed in every warm piece of clothing that I had. And then I hear this voice going, "You're not going out there." Now, I will be very honest with you and tell you that that actually wasn't God's voice, but it seemed like God because I knew I shouldn't go out there, but I had to. Okay? So I trudged down the hill. We live on top of a hill. The sheep live down at the bottom of the hill. So I trudged down there in all of these clothes. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to move some hay for these guys. So I took a bale of hay. And I put it on a plastic kid's sled. Plastic sled. This wide. You can't see it from there, but it's about this wide, about 5 feet long. I put a bale of hay on it. It's about 85 pounds. I thought, well, a sled can carry 85 pounds. It carries a kid. It's carried me before, and I trust you when I say I weigh more than 85 pounds. Now, the thing is that sled was at the far end of the pasture, and the shed where the sheep are is at this end of the pasture. Whoops, this end of the pasture. So I'm thinking, I've got this figured out, because I knew the friction coefficient of a plastic shed on ice was going to be pretty easy to pull, and it was. The thing I forgot to remember was that about halfway there was a little rise in the ground, and then it went down a little bit. The sled. Okay. The sled went down quite well, and it didn't knock me over because I had a feeling it was going to. So I took it to them, and they were very happy. But it was so quiet until the sheep saw me coming. And then the racket began. I don't know how 8 sheep can sound like a herd of elephants, but they did. And they were so happy that they had been fed. And I was so happy that I was not dead at this point. So back up the hill I trudged. The friction coefficient I remembered from my physics class. Oh, what a brilliant idea that was. And I'll probably do it again sometime this winter. But I will probably hear a voice saying, "What are you doing?" So, hearing voices. Poor Samuel. Imagine that. 3 times he hears a voice. And he was pretty sure it wasn't Eli's voice. So they finally figured out, this might be the voice of the Lord. You might want to listen to this. The Lord might have something important to tell you, and in this particular case, he did. It's one of those Old Testament prophecies. Things were not going well for Eli, and Samuel was sent as a messenger. So as we look at these things today, we're too busy. We're making too much noise to ever hear God's voice. God does not go, Mike. God does not go, Noah. He whispers. And if we are so wrapped up and so busy doing things, we're not going to hear it. We will not hear it. We won't even hear it with my hearing aids. God doesn't talk in a big, loud voice. He expects us to be able to hear him. This is winter. Do you realize that the month of January, from a decibel rating, is the lowest decibel rating of the whole year? Do you know why? Because it's cold and it's snowing. And people aren't getting out like they should. Or like they do. So we look at these things. January is a time where we sit back and reflect on our lives. We just sit back. We can quietly sit back. Yesterday I was kind of glad that there wasn't any football on that I could watch. Because it was quiet. It was quiet. So I watched a bunch of 10-year-olds play hockey on the internet. That was noisy. That was really noisy. But I was sitting here in the peace and quiet. So as I look around at things and as I look around at people and I'm watching people come and go here on this, I'm getting a bunch of people watching this today. You know why? Because there's nothing going on. Well, worst case scenario, I'll just watch Claver in his basement. I think my fire's going out too. Anyway, listen, listen, listen. The last book I'm going to share with you this morning is a book by Joan Chittister, who is a nun, and I don't remember which order she is in, but she has written a lot of wonderful books. And this one is Listen with the Heart, Sacred Moments in Every Life. And this is such a well-done book, well-done stories, all kinds of little paragraphs of wisdom. Paragraphs of wisdom. Here's one. Never assume that you can always tell the difference between darkness and light. Some of the most penetrating insights we ever receive come out of the deepest darkness. You aware of that? You agree with that? I do. Sometimes it has to get dark in your life before you figure out, oh, there's an insight. Darkness is the place where the tiniest sliver of light means the most. The smallest act of concern can bring lightness of heart to the one whose soul is blanketed in darkness. We all know people whose lives are blanketed in darkness. And we are that little spark that they need. And we don't even realize that we've just been used by God because God has something to say to them. Trust me when I tell you, I've had conversations where I talk to people and I go, where'd those words come from? Because I am not that smart. And you realize that God has used you. He's used your body, your voice, to say something. And that's a pretty impressive feeling. And you know what? It's pretty scary, too. There's another one. When we bring light into a room, we bring the energy of God into life. God is light. Scripture tells us. So if we are sincerely seeking God, it's imperative that we position our souls in the light, even when the light of new truth is difficult for us to bear. Edna St. Vincent Millay, one of the greatest poets ever, writes, "My candle burns at both ends. I will not last the night. But ah, my foes, and oh, my friends, It gives a lovely light. She goes on and says, pity the life that has nothing for which burning the candle at both ends is worth it. That is indeed a very dark life. Chittister writes, we do not live in the light at all times. Waiting for the light is part of the process of learning to appreciate it. Believe that? Loretta LaRoche says that 75% of daily conversation is negative. We complain about the weather, the traffic, the schedule, and sleep. So she went out and had a bumper sticker printed out that she gave out that says, "Stop global whining." I thought that was cute. How many of you speak Gaelic? Greishag. Gaelic speakers tell us is the process of burying warm coals in ashes at night in order to preserve the fire for the cold morning to come. Instead of cleaning out the cold hearth, people preserving yesterday's glowing coals on their beds of ash overnight in order to have fast-starting new fire the next day. It is a holy process, this preservation of purpose, of warmth and light in darkness. Now, for those of you that have been Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, or anybody that's ever been around a campfire, you know that that process has been called a lot of different things, but usually it's banking a fire. You pile it up, you put the embers just low below the ashes, and the next morning you stir them around a little bit, and poof, you got a fire again. The Irish have another custom associated with Greishag. Besides burying the last ember of the day in cold coals in order to start the next day's peat fire quickly, the Irish preserve the fire from home to home as well. When a young person marries and when a family moves, they take a hot coal from the first hearth to start the first fire in the new one. The Irish know that no fire lasts forever. The new light has come from somewhere. The light that has shown us the way this far must not be dimmed. Isn't that interesting? I found it interesting. I hope you find it interesting. John Ruskin, another poet, writes, light is God's eldest daughter. Light is God's sign of creation. Without light, nothing grows. But letting new light shine on old ideas is one of the hardest things we ever do, it seems. Instead, we cling to ideas that grow dim and call ourselves holy for refusing to change. Uh-oh. What an insult to the God of life that is. And lastly, and I think this one really gets me. It says, a Sufi, S-U-F-I, searching through the dust on the road quickly attracts a crowd of onlookers. Sufi, what are you doing? People ask. I lost my treasure and I'm searching for it, the Sufi answered. So one by one, for hours and hours, the people passing by drop to their knees and sift through the dirt and dig in the ditches. Finally, exhausted by the heat of the day and the fruitlessness of the task, a searcher sighed, Sufi, are you sure you lost your treasure here? The Sufi says, oh no, I didn't lose my treasure here. I lost it over there on the other side of the mountain. The tired searchers were shocked. Well, if you know that you lost your treasure over there, they demanded to know, why are you searching for it here? And the Sufi said, because there's more light here. Think about that. And then I want you to ask yourself whether you are looking for your own treasure where it is dark or where it is light. Do not take that question for granted. Ask yourself whether you're looking for your own treasure in the dark or in the light. You know, a simple question like that is a lot to ponder. That sentence right there, you could build a whole sermon series on. Where are you looking for your treasure? Where are you looking for your treasure? Do you have a flashlight? Do you have a fire? Or are you stumbling around in the dark going, I know I had it here somewhere. I just saw it. Where did I see it? Let me think. Where did I see that? Should I turn on the light and look for it? No, I just like stumbling over things in the dark. I think there's people like that. They like stumbling over things in the dark rather than light a candle. Turn the light on. The Chinese proverb is, it's better to light a single candle than to curse the darkness. How many of us curse the darkness because we're too lazy to light a candle? Interesting thought. So with that, I'm going to go to the prayer requests as I have them for this week. And we'll get a little background music going here. So would you pray with me this morning? This morning we pray for the Gary Van Cleve family as they prepare to bid farewell to Gary. Gary passed away earlier this year, or later last year rather, 29th of December. Wonderful man, loved to sing, certainly one of your servants. We offer our prayers too for Andy Stubblefield, who continues to recover. Andy and I go way back, and he certainly needs our prayers. Katie Anderson, who is currently at Snyder Village, she certainly needs our prayers. Katie is 92 years old and is getting close to being at the end of her road. Yet she still brings a smile to people's faces. And this morning I also want to pray for those who must work outdoors in this weather. And I just wrote down a few. The utility linemen who keep our lights on, who keep our phones working, who keep heat coming into our house. The drivers of the snow plows who risk life and limb going out so we can risk our life and limb driving. All of the first responders, police, fire, EMS, who work 24/7. And then all the public works personnel who have to go out and place barricades, who have to go out and make sure the sidewalks in downtowns are clear, who work so hard for us. And quite honestly, I think we take them for granted. So this morning, I wish you all a very quiet Sabbath. A Sabbath of rest. A Sabbath that is what it's supposed to be. A time to reflect the word of the Lord. To be at peace with one another. To just listen. Listen to the sounds of silence. I ask the Lord be with all of you as we prepare to go through the week. Keep us safe, Lord. Keep us in your holy presence. And remind all of us that you indeed are in charge. And we can quit worrying about things over which we have absolutely no control. You've got those things, Lord. And so now may the Lord watch between me and thee while we are absent, one from the other. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, now and forever. Amen. Stay safe and go in peace.